to the March 2025 open meeting of the Federal Communications Commission. Just like last month, we are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. And Madam Secretary, would you please introduce this morning's agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you and good morning, Commissioners. For today's meeting, you will hear 3 items for your consideration. First, you will consider a notice of inquiry on promoting the development of positioning, navigation, and timing technologies and solutions. Second, you will consider a further notice of proposed rulemaking on facilitating implementation of next-generation 911 services and improving 911 reliability. Third, you will consider a 6th further notice of proposed rulemaking on improving wireless 911 caller location and wireless E911 location accuracy requirements. This is your agenda for today. Please note, Item 4, as listed in the Commission's Sunshine Notice on March 20th, 2025, a restricted adjudicatory matter from the Media Bureau, was adopted by the Commission and deleted from today's agenda. Today's first item is titled Exploring Alternatives to GPS and will be presented by the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau. Joel Taubenblatt, Acting Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Chief Taubenblatt, please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm pleased to have with me at the table Barbara Esben, Deputy Chief of the Wireless Bureau, Linda Chang, Associate Chief of the Mobility Division of the Bureau, and Melissa Conway, an Attorney Advisor in the division, and Melissa will present the item.
Thank you, Joel. Good morning, Chairman Carr, and good morning, Commissioners. The notice before you today opens an inquiry into technologies that could complement or back up GPS. We rely significantly on GPS for a range of purposes, from national security and public safety to economic stability. But GPS is vulnerable to disruption. Because of this, we need to support the development of alternative systems that provide positioning, navigation, and timing, or PNT data. The notice recognizes the considerable work done by government and the private sector and supports a whole-of-government approach to this challenge. The notice asks about both space-based and terrestrial solutions for PNT resiliency, including satellite systems and the potential to leverage TV broadcast infrastructure, ground-based transmitters, and user equipment positioning. It also seeks comment on the relative pros and cons of different solutions by considering factors like coverage area, available equipment, spectrum resources that would be needed, how well the system would perform for different uses, reliability, cost to users, and international considerations. The notice asks questions about how else the FCC could promote PNT complements and alternatives that protect critical operations from disruption. To get the conversation started, the notice seeks input from the public on potential rule changes, partnerships between the public sector and the private sector, or real-world testing environments that the FCC can facilitate. The Bureau recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges for technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
We will now hear comments from the bench, starting with Commissioner Starks.
Yes, the Commission regularly is at the intersection of technology, innovation, and national security. This NOI holds the potential to make progress on those fronts. As we heard, position, navigation, and timing PNT services undergird the modern economy while providing a vital function for America's military. And through GPS, it continues to serve users effectively but the lack of an alternative system is a vulnerability that I believe necessitates action. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Conway. I want to double click on one thing that you mentioned, the international aspect. You know, as other countries make progress developing and deploying new PNT systems, I think it's imperative that the United States continue to advance here. And so I'm pleased that NOI asked the right questions about what we need to do to ensure that any system or system of systems we deploy advance America's PNT needs that are resilient, efficient, and secure. So thank you to the Bureau for their hard work on this item. It has my full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Starks. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly support this notice of inquiry, which looks to find ways that the Commission can help strengthen the PNT system or systems in the United States. As I've mentioned in the past, GPS vulnerabilities are unfortunately becoming one of America's most troubling security and public safety issues. I believe that the FCC can play a vital role in mitigating those risks by not only evaluating certain vulnerabilities inherent to GPS, such as interference and jamming, and analyzing the unauthorized use of foreign PNT systems within the United States, but also by investigating how the Commission can cultivate alternative technologies to complement GPS.
Commissioner Gomez.
Thank you. As Melissa noted, we rely on PNT technology like GPS for just about everything we do. From tracking the shipment of an item you brought from a retailer, to accurately measuring the miles you ran on your fitness device, to finding the most efficient driving route. I personally am a big Waze user. But currently, technology users in the United States obtain this service from a single PNT technology, and that's GPS. So it is good that we are looking at the broad world of PNT technologies and starting to ask questions about additional options that could be complementary to GPS. All of this serves the goal of making our communications more resilient. I support the agency asking questions early. So thank you to the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau for your work on this NOI.
Thank you, commissioners. For all of the space weather fans out there, May 10, 2024 was a pretty epic evening. That's because the northern lights were clearly visible across large swaths of the country for the first time in decades, lighting up the sky in a mix of greens and reds and purples. Now, many of our country's farmers will never forget that day, but for a very different reason. The massive solar storm that produced those northern lights also shut down planting operations all across the American Midwest by knocking out GPS services. As Kevin Kenny, a Nebraska farmer, put it, all the tractors are sitting at the ends of the field right now, shut down because of the solar storm. No GPS. Now, agriculture is just one facet of modern American life that's vulnerable to GPS disruptions. Our electric grid, our financial systems, our ports, our communications networks, our military, our driving directions, you name it, all rely on GPS to provide position, navigation, and timing, or PNT data. To punctuate the point that GPS is everywhere, I would note that the other main items on our agenda today are about next generation 911 and location accuracy, services that depend on GPS. And now for years, federal leaders have been pushing for action to ensure we have a resilient system in place to provide PNT data in case GPS gets disrupted or degraded, including through intentional malicious acts. In 2018, Senator, now Chairman Cruz, and Senator Markey passed a bipartisan law to create a reliable alternative timing system to GPS satellites. In 2020, President Trump issued an executive order calling on federal agencies to enhance PNT resilience. And other countries are moving quickly already to stand up alternatives to GPS. For instance, China and Russia have backup plans for PNT services, and it would serve our own country's national security and economic interests to ensure that America has one too. Achieving that goal will require a whole-of-government approach. Today, the FCC is stepping up to do its part, but we couldn't do it alone. I want to thank NTIA in particular for communicating the interests of federal stakeholders and ensuring that this proceeding allows us to build a complete and thorough record. With this inquiry, we'll explore other PNT systems that can be complements or alternatives to GPS with an emphasis on complementary systems. Beyond answering technical questions, we hope this effort will engage stakeholders across government and industry and encourage the development of new PNT technologies and solutions. This proceeding is a big deal. Finally, I'd like to thank the FCC staff once again for their hard work on this item, especially Barbara Esbin, Roger Noel, Linda Chang, Melissa Conway, David Hugh of the Wireless Bureau. The item has my support, and we will proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Starks.
Yes. Approved.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
Commissioner Gomez.
Approve.
And the chair votes yes as well. The item is adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, will you please announce the next item on today's agenda?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, item 2 on your agenda is titled Facilitating Implementation of Next Generation 911 Services, Improving 911 Reliability, and will be presented by the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. Zenji Nakazawa, Acting Bureau Chief, will give the introduction.
Good morning, Chairman Carr, Commissioners. With me today, Good morning, Chairman Carr and Commissioners. Let's try that again. With me today are Deputy Bureau Chief David Firth and Chris Fideli, Attorney Advisor in the Bureau. Chris will present the item today.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Nakazawa. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Today's further notice proposes measures to ensure the resiliency, reliability, accessibility, and interoperability of next-generation 911 systems, or NG911. First, the further notice proposes to update the Commission's existing 911 reliability rules. These rules were originally adopted in 2013 and require covered service providers, or CSPs, to take specific measures to ensure their networks provide reliable service to public safety answering points, or PSAPs. The 2013 rules focused on legacy 911 networks because at that time, few states or localities had begun deploying NG911 systems. The further notice proposes to update and expressly apply the Commission's 911 reliability rules to service providers that control or operate critical pathways and facilities in NG911 systems. Second, the further notice proposes interoperability rules for the interstate transfer of 911 traffic between emergency services IP networks, or EZNets. EZNets are the state and regional networks that form the backbone of NG911. The proposal seeks to ensure that EZNets will support PSAP's ability to transfer 911 calls across state borders with minimal need for calls and associated data to be retranslated or reformatted. Promoting interoperability, in turn, improves network resiliency, especially during disasters and major emergencies. Third, the further notice proposes to modify certification and oversight mechanisms in the current 911 reliability rules. The further notice would also take steps to promote transparency and share information about NG911 networks with state and local authorities so that they are fully equipped to address network reliability and interoperability locally. Finally, today's further notice proposes to eliminate, consolidate, or streamline outdated 911 reliability regulations in order to maximize the effectiveness of the new rules while minimizing regulatory burdens on service providers. Together, these proposals are intended to help ensure that the nation's 911 systems continue to function effectively and reliably, and to improve transparency and accountability during the NG911 transition, while appropriately balancing the cost and benefits of these regulations. The Bureau recommends that the Commission adopt this further notice of proposed rulemaking and requests editorial privileges for technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And we will now hear comments from the bench, starting with my friend from afar, Commissioner Starks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Americans deserve access to the best and most reliable 911 service available. Today's item is a critical step towards ensuring that our current 911 rules are designed to ensure that emerging next generation 911 networks are resilient, reliable, accessible, and interoperable. I'll hover longer statement for the record, but what is clear is that NG 911 provides significant advantages for both individuals in emergency situations and public safety officials and the first responders who are dedicated to serving them. And when the Commission established 911 reliability rules in 2013, the transition to NG 911 was just beginning. And so since then, as we heard, numerous state and local authorities have made remarkable strides in implementing NG 911 capabilities within their areas. And so it is replacing that old 911 technology with IP-based systems to support new features like text, video, and data. And there's no doubt that significant improvements have been made to this critical service. It's essential that our rules here at the Commission be revisited to account for these improvements. So I'm pleased that today we're taking action to integrate NG 911 further into our standards. So this has my strong support. Thank you to Public Safety and the Homeland Security Bureau for their great work on this item. I look forward to seeing how the record develops. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Starks. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I'd like to express my appreciation to the Bureau, but no further comments at this time.
Thanks. Commissioner Gomez.
Thank you. Improving access to 911 services is vital to ensuring that all individuals can quickly and reliably reach emergency assistance when they need it the most. That is the goal of NG 911. As we proceed with this transition, the public remains our best resource for identifying what is working and what needs improvement. Ensuring consumers have a direct way to provide feedback about 911 outages is crucial for improving public safety and strengthening the reliability of emergency communications. Consumers are often the first to experience disruptions in 911 service, making their input invaluable for identifying outage patterns, service gaps, and accessibility challenges that may not be immediately evident to providers or authorities. So I want to thank the Public Safety Bureau for their work on this matter, and I also want to thank the chairman for working with my office to add language to this item that asks whether the FCC should establish a dedicated consumer portal for 911-related outage complaints. By creating such a portal, the FCC could provide a streamlined mechanism for gathering real-time information from those directly impacted. This approach would enhance the Commission's ability to assess risks, address concerns promptly, and improve overall 911 reliability. Moreover, empowering consumers to report issues directly supports transparency and accountability, reinforcing public confidence in the nation's emergency communication systems. Finally, I would like to thank my intern, Sofia Carrillo, for suggesting this edit and bringing to our attention how this can have a significant impact on small rural communities like hers. Cleburne County in South Texas, where she lives, has experienced continuous wireless outages, threatening the safety of her community. Sophia is unfortunately not with us today as she's enjoying a well-deserved spring break. But if she's watching, I hope she knows we appreciate her work to make her community and our country safer from outages. And now, as I always do when it comes to issues directly impacting consumers, I'd like to provide brief remarks in Spanish. Mejorar el acceso a los servicios de 911 es esencial para garantizar que las personas puedan recibir asistencia de rápida forma y confiable cuando la necesitan. A medida que avanza la transición a la nueva generación de servicios 911, NG 911 por su sigla en inglés, el público desempeña un papel fundamental al ayudarnos a identificar posibles fallas en estos nuevos servicios digitales. Dado que los consumidores suelen ser los primeros en detectar las interrupciones del 911, proporcionarles una vía directa para reportar interrupciones es crucial para mejorar la seguridad pública. Por eso, hemos añadido a este ítem una pregunta dirigida a saber si la FCC debería crear un portal donde los consumidores puedan presentar quejas sobre interrupciones de servicio 911. Dicho portal facilitaría la recopilación de información relacionada con estas interrupciones. Instamos al público a seguir compartiendo con nosotros cualquier dato sobre interrupciones que ocurran en sus comunidades. Así podremos seguir fomentando la transparencia y la responsabilidad en nuestros sistemas de comunicaciones. Gracias.
Thank you, Commissioner Gomez. Whenever I talk about the agenda that I want my colleagues and I to work on together here at the FCC, promoting public safety is always one of the most important points that I highlight. And one of the most important things we can do on this front is to make sure that calls to 911 always go through. And that's why our 911 reliability rules are so important. But it's been 12 years now since the FCC first adopted its 911 reliability rules, and a lot can change over a dozen years. Back then, for instance, the transition to next generation or NG 911 was just getting underway. And we've learned a lot over the past dozen years about NG 911 and legacy 911 systems alike. In particular, we now have experience with a number of unfortunate, what we call sunny day outages, time when 911 calling goes down for reasons that are unrelated to a storm or other natural disaster. These events have uncovered potential gaps in our 911 reliability rules. Today's proposal would address these gaps by ensuring that the third parties that support 911 systems are covered by the Commission's reliability requirements. These changes could reduce the risk of outages and enhance the resiliency of our 911 systems. Today's item also explores ways the Commission could facilitate greater interoperability of NG 911 systems. We also look at additional changes today. For one, the item seeks comment on ways we can update and streamline our 911 rules to make them easier for the average person or business to understand, which in turn can help reduce compliance costs for businesses. For another, we see comment on reducing the complexity of our annual certification filing requirements. This way we can carry out the FCC's public safety mandate in the most efficient manner possible. Now, for all of their hard work on today's item, I'd like to express my thanks again to the FCC's talented staff, to Jay English, John Evanoff, Chris Fidelity, David Firth, Robert Musenden, Rasul Sufavian, Dan Spurlock, and Rachel Ware. Thank you again, and we will now proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
Commissioner Gomez.
Approve.
The chair votes yes as well. The item is adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, please call the next item on our agenda.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, item 3 on your agenda is titled Strengthening 911 Location Accuracy and will also be presented by the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. And Zenji Nakazawa, Acting Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Good
Thanks.
morning again, Chairman Carr, Commissioners. With me is still David Bird. And to my left here, presenting the item is Zach DeLeo.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Nakazawa. Good morning, Chairman Carr and Commissioners. The sixth further notice of proposed rulemaking proposes several measures to improve the accuracy and actionability of location information transmitted with 911 calls to 911 telecommunicators, dispatchers, and first responders. First, the sixth further notice proposes to require wireless providers to deliver vertical or Z-axis location information to 911 call centers in a format that measures the vertical position of the 911 caller's device based on its height above ground level instead of the height above ellipsoid format that's used to deliver Z-axis information to 911 call centers today. Second, the further notice explores ways to increase the number of wireless 911 calls delivered with dispatchable location information. That is the caller's street address plus floor level and apartment or room number. The item seeks to refresh the record on the current state of dispatchable location technologies and to ensure that wireless providers are using these technologies to their maximum potential. Third, the item proposes to foster greater transparency and accountability in the industry testbed process. that is used to validate the performance of wireless location accuracy technologies. The proposed rules would require that vertical location technologies be tested and evaluated in each of 4 different environments. The item also proposes to expand access to the testbed data for non-nationwide wireless providers and certain major public safety organizations, and to allow challenges to the validation of particular technologies in the testbed. Fourth, the item seeks comment on improving horizontal location accuracy for wireless 911 calls and on improving location accuracy for text to 911. Finally, the item seeks comment on eliminating certain legacy 911 rules that have been superseded by the current 911 location accuracy rules or otherwise obsolete. Overall, this item would encourage cooperation and collaboration among all parties involved to achieve the ultimate goal of better location accuracy delivered as quickly and reliably as possible with every 911 call. The Bureau recommends that the Commission adopt this 6th further notice of proposed rulemaking and request editorial privileges for technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench, starting with Commissioner Starks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the hard work of public safety here. One of the issues that I remember even back from 2019 was the technical and hard work, but how impactful it is.
We need some agency in charge of communications infrastructure to step it up here. We'll give it a second to refresh. You know, you could have been paused in a worse position, though. It's really not bad as pauses go on screens.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot worse.
It's true.
Give it one more second, and then we'll move to other commissioner statements, and then we will try to circle back. This is as good as it gets right here. Okay. Well, thank you, Commissioner Starks. You really left us hanging on that one. Commissioner Symington, can you top that one?
I have no statement other than to thank the Bureau.
Perfect. Commissioner Gomez.
Thank you. Enhancing location accuracy for 911 calls is crucial because it enables first responders to quickly and precisely locate individuals in emergencies, reducing response times and saving lives. As I've said before, ensuring that public safety have the tools they need is one of my top priorities. I can't think of anything more important than giving them the ability to accurately and promptly locate those in harm's way. For that reason, I am proud to support this item, and I want to thank the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau for their work on this issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Gomez. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to visit Fire Station 40 in Fairfax County, Virginia. I spent time that morning with about a dozen firefighters to get a better understanding of how location technologies assist them in doing their jobs. They emphasize the importance of 911 solutions that can help them quickly locate both victims and fellow first responders during an emergency situation. Shortly after that visit, the FCC adopted rules that made it much easier for first responders to find callers in apartments and office buildings. But our real-life experience since then shows that there are still too many instances when first responders are not getting actionable location information that they need in emergencies. We look to remedy that today. With this item, the Commission builds on our prior work on location accuracy to ensure that first responders receive not just accurate information, but actionable information. I also want to thank the FCC staff once again that worked on this item, including Brenda Boykin, Jill Coogan, Zachary DeLeo, Thomas Eng, Jay English, John Evanoff, Chris Fideli, David Firth, and Rasul Safavian. Some common names from the last item, so people had to double dip over the course of the last month. We will now proceed to a vote, and if we don't have Commissioner Starks, rest assured we will find his vote and track it down officially for the record. But we will start with, let's see, Commissioner Starks, if we have him. Nope. Okay. Commissioner Symington?
Approve.
Commissioner Gomez?
Approve. Your general counsel is saying that they're trying to get him.
Yeah, we can paper over this, trust me.
There he is. He's here. You're on mute.
Commissioner Starks, if you give us a thumbs up, I think that'll qualify as a vote to approve. Yeah. For the record, I think that counts. I think that's close enough. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Starks. Once again, the chair votes yes, the item is adopted, thankfully, with editorial privileges as requested. I think we are at the end here. Would any of my colleagues, before we adjourn, like to make any announcement? I have a number of announcements, but I will hold those for now. Commissioner Starks, is there anything that you would like to announce?
Do I have sound and volume back?
Yeah, all good.
I am all good. Well, where I am obviously doesn't have that high-speed connectivity that we all are looking for here. More than anything, I did announce, obviously, last week that I informed the President and Leader Schumer of my intention to resign this spring. No further news to be made here today, other than I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of the warm and generous comments I received from my colleagues on the Commission, as well as countless advocates, staff, and industry folks who've reached out. As I said, truly, it's been the honor of a lifetime to serve the American people, and I look forward to continuing the work with the chairman and with my colleagues on the commission and with the staff these remaining weeks while I'm on the commission, of course, and the hard work that we all do continues. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Starks, and obviously thank you so much for your career in public service. I think all of us put out statements on that, and when you're back here on the dais with us, we look forward to celebrating you even more fully. But thank you again for your friendship over the years. We've found a lot of common ground. We've had the chance to travel together, do events together, and I've always really appreciated the chance to learn from your perspective and insights and your time from DOJ to the Bureau here, to your leadership on the Commission. It's been a tremendous, tremendous run in public service, so thank you for that. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. In addition to expressing my appreciation for Commissioner Starks' significant leadership on many items in the past, I would also like to note that today he pioneered voting via emoji, which will hopefully help keep the Commission relevant to Gen Z.
I like it.
So,
I like it.
I do have a couple of transitions to announce. My Chief of Staff, Adam Cassidy, is no longer with the Federal Communications Commission because he has become a Principal Deputy at NTIA.
Yeah, congrats.
So awesome. At this point, we've got a revolving door between the NTIA and the FCC, it seems. And that's, of course, only good if we're talking about whole of government initiatives. Additionally, I'd like to welcome my new confidential assistant, Anya Urban, and I'm not going to call on her to stand, but if you stop by my office, you'll find that she's very informed on a wide variety of issues, quite apart from her work in telecommunications. She also studied chemistry at the University of Chicago and is currently a doctoral student in their theology program. So in other words, the tradition of me being the least educated member of my office continues apace. Thanks very much. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Commissioner Gomez.
Thank you. I, too, would like to echo my colleagues' remarks in thanking Commissioner Starks for his really remarkable service here at the Commission. He has been such a leader on public safety and national security, on consumer issues, connectivity. So I'm glad to still have him with us. And I'm sure we'll have further remarks later, but I just want to acknowledge and thank you for all of your good service.
Thank you. Well, as my predecessor, Chairwoman Roser, also would say, get comfortable. There's a lot of personnel announcements to come. Before I do so, though, point of privilege, I want to recognize that one of my friends and longtime mentors, Bob Beiser, is in attendance today, former General Counsel of Gray. I first met Bob in September of 2001 when I was a paralegal at a law firm here in D.C., and he started talking about the work that he was doing in media and telecom, suggested that I go to Catholic to study telecom, and 24 years later, that is how history is made, apparently. Now, a lot of people go up to him and said, Bob, you really could have suggested, energy law or international law. Would have been a lot better for the country if you hadn't sort of got this guy interested in media and communications law, but you can't go back and change that now. But great to see you. Great to have you here. Bob, really appreciate your friendship and mentorship over the years. Thanks. In other news, first up in my office is a very tough goodbye for me. Dreama Johnson, my longtime confidential assistant, is departing my office. Now, I know a lot of people are looking over here to see Dreama. You will not find Dreama over here. Dreama is already back down at her place in Kingsmill outside of Williamsburg. I'm told that right now she had planned to be sitting at the Marina restaurant, kicking back, and if she had good connectivity, dropping in on this. But I wanted to send my thanks and appreciation to Dream. I mean, she's absolutely a public service hero. She was the CA for 3 different FCC chairs, for a Speaker of the House, so just an incredible run in public service. She's also a dear friend. She, again, was sort of part of the original CAR team going back to October of 2017 when she started with me. I think that makes her the longest serving person on my team, which is quite a feat. So I just want to, again, express my thanks and appreciation to Dreama on everything that she's done for the FCC, for me, and across a really incredible career in public service. So thank you, Dreama. We wish you all the best in retirement. Next up is Sophie Dreyer. Sophie's been an intern in my office for the past few months, and she has been absolutely phenomenal. Sophie's over here, so if you do want to look at Sophie, you can actually do that. She's here physically present. She's a 2L at BYU at the J. Reuben Clark School of Law, where she serves as Vice President of Women in Law, Vice President of DC Law Society, and one better, President of the Native American Law Students Association. Originally from Las Vegas, Sophie's passion for communications began early. She interned at Hyper Networks as a teenager, largely because she used that as a way to sneak into CES, even before she was 18. Now, prior to joining the FCC, Sophie was a summer associate at Wilkinson Barker Nauer and worked in the personal offices of Congressman and now Senator John Curtis, for Senator Mitt Romney, and before that, Governor Spencer Cox. She's also been a tech reporter for Broadband Breakfast. She's been a fantastic contributor to our team. We have really enjoyed having her around the office. She's taken on a variety of tasks and research projects. She's been a real aid to us. We wish her all the best as her internship comes to an end and she heads back to Utah. And now the FCC retirements. This is where you got to settle in a little bit. In the Wireline Competition Bureau, Victoria Goldberg, she's the outgoing chief of Wireline's Pricing Policy Division and is retiring from the commission after 22 years of service. Trust me, that is going to pale in comparison to some of the years we have coming up. She worked on a lot of projects. She was integral to the commission's inter-carrier compensation reform efforts and a lot of other significant endeavors. Al Lewis is retiring from the commission after 19 years of service in Wireline and in our previous international bureau. Al's been a leader and advisor on numerous topics in Wireline, including inter-carrier compensation and tariffing issues. Todd Mitchell is retiring after 30 years of service in Wireline, where he developed and maintained the commission's electronic tariff filing service. Suzanne Yellen, who I actually started my career out with many, many years ago in the private sector, is an associate bureau chief in Wireline, and she's retiring from the commission after 13 years of service, during which she oversaw implementation and administration of the FCC's high-cost USF programs. Sue McNeil, an associate bureau chief in Wireline, is retiring after 24 years of service across 5 different bureaus, where she expertly led the agency's work on many significant issues, including most recently geo-routing for wireless calls to 988, robocall mitigation, always an important effort, and promoting broadband for rural areas. Terry Natoli, the Deputy Bureau Chief in Wireline, is retiring after 12 years of service, where she expertly led numerous projects, including the 2024 implementation of the Martha Wright Reed Act, efforts to facilitate copper retirements, and the transition to a new generation of networks requiring work on Section 214, and also doing direct access to telephone numbers for VoIP providers. Ted Burmeister. Ted is a special counsel in Wireline. He's retiring after 25 years. Throughout that time, he's worked with the TAPD division, a very famous legacy division within the agency. A lot of talented people come out of there, Nick DeGuy notwithstanding. And they support the Commission's high-cost programs. There you go. Through the development of the MAG order. At first I thought it said the MAGA order, but it's the MAG order. Got to get that right. And their transition to model-based support. Moving on to public safety, Nikki McGinnis. She's retiring from the FCC after 20 years of her telecom experience, including as Deputy Bureau Chief in Public Safety, Deputy Bureau Chief in CGB, and Assistant Division Chief in Wireless. Rochelle Cohen is retiring from her position as Managing Public Affairs for the Public Safety Bureau. She previously served as the Director of the Office of Public Affairs at NTIA and a spokesperson for our Wireline Bureau. Cal Krathmeyer retired just last month after a 34-year career as an electrical engineer at the Commission. Most recently, he served as a special advisor in the Satellite Licensing Division of the Space Bureau, where he was known for his expert technical analysis on all things satellite and, importantly, his extensive Excel spreadsheet skills. Moving on to Wireless Bureau, Brian Wondrak is retiring after 24 years in public service. Make sure I got all my notes right. In the Wireless Bureau, mostly in the broadband division. He's been involved in a wide variety of licensing activities and rulemakings, focusing on relocation and reimbursement of incumbent services during spectrum transitions. I should also note that Kevin Holmes is departing the FCC after nearly 13 years of service here at the agency. He served in a number of important roles, including in the Wireless Bureau, OLA, and most recently in OET. Kevin was also instrumental to me as I stood up my office all the way back in 2017. He was one of my first wireless advisors, so all the best to Kevin as he explores his next endeavors. In the Enforcement Bureau, we have 6 retirements. David Strickland, he served with distinction at the FCC for more than 25 years in various positions, including a legal advisor in the chair's office, an assistant bureau chief, a senior policy advisor in the Enforcement Bureau, and as an assistant bureau chief, associate division chief in the policy division, as well as time in the International Bureau. So thank you to David. Jeremy Marcus. Jeremy recently served as Deputy Bureau Chief in the Enforcement Bureau, where he oversaw EB's Spectrum Enforcement Division, actually where I started as an intern back in 2002, for those keeping score at home. And he was also in the Office of Field Director. During his 23 years with the Commission, Jeremy served in a variety of additional roles in wireless and wireline, and a detail position over at OMB. Jane Kelly. Jane served 16 years at the FCC after 5 years at the FBI. She joined the FCC's Public Safety Bureau in 2008, working on emergency management, communications reliability, and cybersecurity matters. Jane joined the Enforcement Bureau back in 2019 as well. Kimberly Cook. She served over 24 years at the FCC, starting in the Wireline Bureau with regional market competition proceedings, then the International Bureau, where she managed foreign ownership, national security compliance reviews for telecom transactions, and Kim joined the Enforcement Bureau back in 2023. Greg Hermes began his career at the FCC 25 years ago as a co-op student with the Enforcement Bureau's Equipment Development Group, which he joined full-time after graduation, has been creating and improving equipment used by the field ever since. Greg has contributed to software and hardware development utilized in every piece of equipment produced in the field today. Luke Kessinger retired from the government service after just 2 short years with the FCC at our Enforcement Bureau's Equipment Development Group. Prior to the FCC, though, he had a long career. He was a technician for the FAA and previously served in the U.S. Air Force for 24 years. On to the Media Bureau. Bobby Baker has retired after a career spanning 50 years at the FCC. And wait, that still is not the most that we have today. After 50 years at the FCC, I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. Right out of Georgetown Law School in 1972, Bobby's first job at the commission was in the very first Cable Television Bureau. He later worked in the policy division of the Media Bureau until retiring just last month. We wish Bobby all the best. Dale Bickle, senior electronics engineer in the Media Bureau's audio division, is retiring after 41 years of dedicated service to the public. A true subject matter expert, he developed engineering tools for the staff and ensured that the audio division's website was a treasured source of both current and historical information for the public. Radhika Karmarkar is retiring at the end of the month after a long and distinguished career at the Commission. Radhika has served in a number of bureaus, including Common Carrier, Enforcement, Wireline, Media, where she's been the chief of the Industry Analysis Division. Karen Kosar is retiring after 42 years of service here at the FCC. Karen started at the Commission in the Audio Services Division in 1983 and has worked primarily in the Media Bureau and the Cable Services Bureau. She spent the last 2 decades in the Media Bureau's Policy Division, where she handles some of the division's most complex adjudications. Raylan Remy is retiring after 30 years at the FCC. Raylan started as an honors program attorney in OGC's Competition Division. She later joined the Policy Division of the Common Carrier Bureau, where she worked on 1996 Telecom Act implementation. After a stint in private practice, she returned to the Commission and worked in many different parts of the agency, most recently as a valued member of the Media Bureau's Policy Division. Gary Schonman is retired after a 4-decade career at the FCC. Over the course of 40 years, Gary worked in various roles across multiple bureaus. For the last 10 years, Gary served as special counsel on the Media Bureau's political programming staff and covered multiple presidential and congressional campaigns. On to the Office of International Affairs. Francis Gutierrez is retiring from OIA. He's shaped important rules and dealt with difficult legal and administrative issues at the Commission for over 25 years. Besides being a terrific lawyer, he brings to any project a level of ease and calmness that has carried the day during many stressful times, a skill set that we will surely miss in the days and weeks ahead. Sumita Makodi is retiring from the Office of International Affairs after nearly 30 years in service. She joined the Commission in 1996 and served in different capacities. We've benefited greatly from her careful interpretations of the rules and her comprehensive knowledge of transactions. Unless I get tongue-tied, the last one, we've saved one of the best for last, Larry Olson. Larry has served at the FCC for 62 years. 62 years, yeah. Larry started the Commission in 1963, the same year that Chairman Newton Minow finished up his time serving as chair. And I think it was probably around the same time that Gilligan's Island named the shipwrecked vessel the SS Minnow, after Chairman Minow. That is a fantastic FCC trivia for those that don't know it. Larry started as an electrical engineer in the Broadcast Bureau's New and Changed Facilities branch, where he quickly rose to become chief of the all existing facilities, and later the AM branch. Back in 1982, he was obviously already making marks at the FCC. He followed the Bureau's merger with others into the Mass Media Bureau, working on international issues with their Policy and Rules Division. Soon thereafter, Larry found his home in the International Bureau as a senior engineer and then assistant chief in the Strategic Analysis and Negotiations Division, where he worked from its beginning to its rebirth as the Office of International Affairs. Looking back on his career, whether it was closing the AM radio agreement with Mexico back in 1982, to chairing the ITU Study Group 6 just this year on novel broadcasting recommendations, Larry has been an invaluable asset to the Commission. His unbroken 62-year run in public service stands as a testament to his dedication to ensure broadcasting for everyone. he will, of course, be greatly missed by the many friends and colleagues he made here at the Commission. And with that, while I still have my voice, Madam Secretary, will you please announce the next date for the Commission's monthly agenda meeting?
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission is Monday, April 28th, 2025.
Thank you. Until then, we stand adjourned.
All right, everybody, we'll be starting the chairman's press conference shortly, so if you could just take your conversations outside, I greatly appreciate it. All right, thank you all for coming for the chairman's press conference. As a reminder, we'll be taking one question from each member of the press. And with that, I'm going to introduce Chairman Carr. Thank you.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our monthly press conference. Great to see you all. And in particular, happy opening day to all the baseball fans out there as the season kicks off this afternoon. I think we've got at least one baseball fan. I want to start off by noting some of the really important actions the Commission has been taking, particularly on promoting public safety and national security. Obviously, a couple items today. The GPS backup, GPS alternative item in particular, I think is going to prove to be exceptionally important to the country, as we talked about, for national security, for economic opportunity as well, making sure we have a backup that we can continue to get reliable PNT services. Obviously, 911 as well, took two actions on 911 today. I think that sort of signifies that we care a lot about promoting national security, and we'll continue to move on that front. But in addition to the items that we adopted today, we've been busy in between the meetings otherwise at the FCC. A couple that I want to highlight here. One is that we've worked to extend U.S. leadership in space. We're continuing to go faster and faster in the Space Bureau with Jay Schwartz leading our work there. We've already approved dozens of new space station and Earth station applications. We've made some changes to make direct-to-cell technology work even better for consumers, and we're just continuing to churn out faster work product over there, so I'm really excited about that. Doesn't always get all the headlines of some of the other stuff we do, but that's important work that Space Bureau is doing. Similarly, we issued a series of orders on what we, in the FCBA world, called copper retirement. But basically, we've had rules and regulations that mandate that providers take scarce resource and continue to attempt to maintain old, aging, and for consumers in a lot of cases, expensive copper networks. And we're making it a little bit easier to retire, to shut down those copper networks, and that will allow providers to transition resources and efforts over into building out new next generation services. I think all told, these are some initial steps, but when we get everywhere we want to go on copper retirement, it's going to be taking billions of dollars that we're going to legacy systems and freeing it up for next gen. I think that's going to be, again, one of the more significant things we do over the coming years. National security as well. I announced earlier that we were standing up a new council on national security. And just last week, I laid out some of the initial actions that council has been taking, including a series of letters of inquiry and at least one subpoena to companies that have been placed on the FCC's covered list. So as you know, entities like Huawei, ZTE, China Mobile, we've either denied them authority to get 214 permissions from the FCC to connect to networks, or we have revoked existing authorities. It turns out that some or all of those entities are still doing business or may still be doing business in the country, either because they think they can do it without needing the particular FCC authorization that was revoked or denied or otherwise. And so we're going to get to the bottom of how they're operating today, who they are interconnecting with, and if there's any loopholes that we need to close, we're going to do it. So we're trying here at the FCC to match the pace and cadence that you're seeing across the government, across the administration. There's a good speed to what we're doing, and we're having a great time doing it. With that, I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Can you hear me? Lynn Stanton, TR Daily. I have two issues I wanted to get clarification on. First, what do you believe that voting by emoji is a Title I or Title II service? And secondly, you've used the term invidious DEI a number of times, and I'm just wondering if you could clarify what invidious means.
Well, look, I think over the years, a lot of times companies have taken sort of routine HR processes that have existed for decades, and I think are sort of, really unobjectionable practices by any measure, and they sort of tucked those into the broader rubric of DEI. I think at its core, the invidious forms of DEI discriminations are when you're dividing and discriminating people based on race and gender. That's the core issue that we are looking at. There may be things that people have, for whatever reason, put under the umbrella of DEI, but at its core, we're looking to root out where people are discriminating based on race and gender. You know, we have tons of laws on the books. We have EEO rules at the FCC, and we're going to make sure that all regulated entities that are subject to those comply with them. So that's sort of narrowly what we're speaking about there.
Thank you.
Hi, Chairman Carr. Chris Cole with Law 360. I just wanted to ask if you had any thoughts on the universal service arguments yesterday in the Supreme Court. Any surprises in your view?
Yeah, no new surprises. I got a high-level briefing from some of our team that attended it. The read that I got is it went really well for the U.S. government's position. I mean, you never know exactly when you're reading tea leaves from an oral argument, but I think the net consensus was that it was a good day for the Universal Service Program at the High Court.
Matt Danman, Communications Daily. Go Cincinnati Reds.
Okay, good.
With the number of retirements that were just announced today seem to be in length, almost as lengthy as the meeting itself. Is there a sizable amount of retirement happening at the FCC? Do you have concerns?
What was that word?
Is there a sizable amount of retirement happening at the FCC? Are you concerned about brain drain issues? How are you looking at this retirement?
No, look, I think we've got a tremendously talented group of public servants here at the FCC. Again, my very first time in this building was not this building, it was the old building back in 2002, 2003 as an intern. This place has a tremendous amount of talent. I think, one, you're seeing natural amount of retirement. I think, we are not concerned at this point about any brain drain. We just still have a lot of talent in the building. I think when we started in January, there were roughly 1,500 people total in the building. And, we're working through all those issues right now. We are, almost fully complete on a return to work initiative. And I think, transitions like this are natural times when people retire. So there's nothing that's concerning or gives me pause. We're still going to be able to deliver results for the American people. And our goal is to do it, even more efficiently than ever before. And I'm confident that we've got, all the right people that we need to deliver. And there's nothing that's going to be slowing us down right now.
Hey, Chairman Carr, Maria Carey with Axios. There is a bill that Senators Graham and Durbin plan to introduce on the Hill soon to sunset Section 230 after 2 years, and I'm wondering if there's anything that you can share on the agency's plans on that front, and whether or not you would need to wait for Congress to pass a bill like that to take any action to get rid of that liability shield for tech companies.
Yeah, I think it's great when you look at all the efforts taking place, whether it's inside the administration or in Congress through legislation to look at reforming Section 230, because under its current interpretation by the courts, a lot of courts have read immunities and protections into Section 230 that Congress never actually wrote into the law. And so directionally, anything that reforms the status quo, I think, is a good thing. And the North Star for me on all of this is always more speech, less censorship. If you look back at the past couple of years, I think there was just enormous increase in censorship across the country. Some of it was companies individually deciding to censor on their own, to just silence core political speech. Some of it was jawboning from the Biden administration, pressuring social media companies to censor. You saw Mark Zuckerberg issue a letter about 6 months ago or so, indicating that they felt pressure from the government to censor, and they're walking away from that. So I think with Zuckerberg, with X, which always sort of stood in the breach for free speech over the past 2 years or so, I think those are good things. I think other companies could continue to sort of embrace that free speech tradition of this country. I think Google in particular has a little bit of ways to go on that. But I do think Section 230 reform can be part of it. I've long said that I think the FCC has a role to play here. Section 230 is actually Section 230 of the Communications Act. Somehow it has become referred to as Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, and it's sort of like gets me every time. It's 230 of the Communications Act. The FCC plainly has authority to interpret provisions of the Communications Act. There was a legal blog by a general counsel of the FCC back in 2020 that laid out why the FCC has authority to interpret it. Frankly, my view has always been that we should. And again, the goal here is you can largely leave 230C1 as is, which in my view, properly read, means if you leave someone else's speech up on your platform, you're not liable if it happens to be libelous or tortious speech. I think the problem has become the way courts have read Section 230C2. And I think they've sort of given providers, websites, carte blanche to censor, even though that's not what 230C2 says. So I think there's a role for the FCC potentially in providing guidance on what Congress actually meant when it passed C2, when it put C2 in the Communications Act. In terms of timing, there's no news to break on that on this front, but this has been a longstanding position of mine that I do think there's some changes the FCC should do. When it comes to fundamental reform, when it comes to doing away with 230, if that's what Congress wants to do, that's for them to do, but I think there's a role for the FCC on the interpretive side.
Thank you. Hi, Chairman. Kelsey Griffiths with Bloomberg News. Senator Tom Cotton's office told me last week that you are working with him to castrate Huawei's business in Europe. So I wanted to ask you, what does that mean? What do those efforts with the senator involve, and are there certain countries that you're looking to target?
Yeah, we are always partnering with members of Congress, with Senator Cotton, to help protect and promote U.S. national security. There's sort of a two-pronged effort here. On the one hand, we're taking action still in the U.S. I think Senator Cotton has sort of spoken about this as well. The letters and the subpoenas and the letters of inquiry that we're sending to Huawei's operations here in the U.S. And then abroad as well, it's important that we promote national security interests there in terms of the potential threats that come from Huawei gear profligating all throughout networks around the globe. I was recently in Spain. I met with some of my counterparts there. We talked about national security issues there. And so I think, these conversations are ongoing, but yeah, we're working with Senator Cotton. We're working with a lot of members of Congress to make sure that the real threat posed by Huawei is fully and finally rooted out. So yeah. Anything else? Okay. Thanks all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to hand this off now to my colleague, Will Wyquist, for the Bureau press conference. Thank you all so much.
Good morning. Happy opening day. Go Red Sox. So we're going to take questions on the items themselves. Do we have any questions on the GPS item for the Wireless Bureau? Any questions? No? No questions. I guess you're clear. Thank you, Joel. Any questions on the two public safety items? Okay. Zenji, if your team could come up. I think we'll do them together, both items, so if that's all right.
Matt Daneman, Communications Daily. Thanks for taking the moment. I just want to know on the NG 911, well, actually on both 911 items, Commissioner Gomez had indicated on the NG 911 item she'd had language added about a complaints portal. Beyond that, were there any notable changes between the draft and the approved items for the two 911 items?
For both of them, we did receive some ex partes. Another one in particular was from CTIA, and so we did make some edits on the edges there to the items to reflect those ex partes.
Yeah, I understand there would be ex parte language of like, here's a footnote of that. Anything policy-wise that was changed in the items?
David, I don't believe that there was any change on the policy aspect. Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions on these items? Great. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.
Great. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Commissioner Gomez, if she's ready.
Good morning. Thanks for coming back to our open meeting. As I said last time, I am trying to stand before you every month after our meetings, and I would like to start by highlighting a couple of things. First, as you know, in recent weeks, the FCC has targeted the editorial decisions of news networks, independent reporting by public media, and internal labor practices by private companies. These are dangerous and unprecedented actions by a leading government regulator. You don't have to take my word for it. Various conservative groups, as well as others from every part of the ideological spectrum, agree with this. These actions threaten free speech and an independent press, undermine the First Amendment's free speech protections, and exert undue pressure that compromises the autonomy of private enterprises. And perhaps more alarmingly, these steps have been disguised as an effort to protect the public interest or to produce proof of invidious discrimination. I bet no one here can tell me what that means. What are the public interest obligations that these stations are not meeting? The FCC can't say. What proof do we have that invidious forms of discrimination even exist? The FCC doesn't share that. They can't and they won't, because the FCC and this administration, to them, it just doesn't matter. They are just excuses. They will go after anyone who dares to speak up and disagree with their extreme partisan agenda. Take, for example, the coordinated attempt to roll back civil rights era efforts to promote fairness. They claim that fairness requires discrimination against some. That's not true. I should say that again because I think it's important. They claim that fairness for all requires discrimination against some. That's simply not true. But nonetheless, the FCC is weaponizing its regulatory authority to eliminate voluntary efforts by private companies to increase fair and equal employment opportunities. In an unprecedented move, the FCC has also signaled it will impose heavy regulatory burdens on companies that request approvals for mergers and other business transactions before the FCC. This will only jeopardize economic growth in the name of ideological purity. So the FCC has no business trying to roll back these efforts. But at the very least, it should identify specific conduct or actions that would justify taking these actions. Tell us what it means when you say this is against the public interest. Share with the public and the broadcast stations who serve them the proof you have that diversity, equity, and inclusion has led to invidious discrimination. It is incumbent on the Commission to define what it means to meet this criteria. Otherwise, we are just enforcing against things we don't like. Without a clear and transparent guidance, this never-before-seen form of selective enforcement will be regarded in history as being motivated by a desire to weaponize our broadcast licensing authority to punish opposing viewpoints and intimidate government critics. Finally, actually second to finally, I want to express my deep gratitude to all of the people that you heard about today taking retirement. I am very concerned about the brain drain that you are seeing in these retirements and that we will be seeing in the upcoming months because of all the actions of this administration. We are losing tremendously talented staff. Yes, we also have very talented staff still with us, but it is going to affect us and our ability to do our jobs, to protect the public interest, to protect consumers, to protect competition, and to ensure new and innovative services get to market for the benefit of our country. All right, finally, there's been much speculation as to my future here at the Commission. A bipartisan majority of Congress intended for me to serve the remainder of my term, and I plan to do just that. We've seen alarming attempts to remove congressionally appointed members of independent commissions. To me, that's a reflection of this administration's policy of control and censorship. And it also shows a great amount of fear. Silencing dissenting voices by our government is a sign of weakness, not a show of strength. So I will continue to stand firm in my beliefs and speak up in defense of the First Amendment and on behalf of consumers. Thank you. And now I'm happy to answer your questions.
Hi, Commissioner Gomez. I'm Maria. I cover tech for Axios, Maria Curie. I wanted to ask you about the chairman's efforts to potentially block mergers over DEI. Do you have an understanding at this point what specific DEI actions would be targeted, and could they potentially run up against the digital discrimination requirements to not do that in the infrastructure law?
Thank you so much for for your question. I think your question is exactly on point, which is what exactly are we talking about when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion actions? Because what we keep hearing is we are trying to eliminate invidious discrimination. But as I just said, we don't know what invidious discrimination means. So it's very important that we take a step back and talk about what it is that diversity, equity, and inclusion is, and what it is appropriate for the Commission to be doing in this area. Diversity, equity, and inclusion practices are not about discrimination. They are, in fact, about fairness. And what you are seeing is private businesses under attack for promoting fairness. Some would like to claim that fairness for all requires discrimination against some. That's simply not true. So what we have right now is an undefined, unproven, and indistinguishable standard of invidious discrimination being used to target these companies. It's not this agency's function to prosecute diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it is incumbent on this commission to define what invidious discrimination is and what evidence it even has that I can't even say it anymore, invidious discrimination even exists. Otherwise, we're just enforcing against things we don't like.
Thank you.
Hi, Commissioner Gomez.
Hello.
Chris Cole with Law 360. I just wanted to ask about the delete docket
Mm-hmm.
that was open. Are you concerned that there's unilateral action from the chair's office on this? And did the whole commission need to vote on that as a notice of inquiry? Because that was one of the criticisms.
First of all, let me say that I do support streamlining. This is part of a process. In fact, when I was a staffer at the FCC, and Lynn remembers all my old days, not all of them, but you know, we go back a few decades. I used to participate in the biennial review process. So this is nothing new here. But I want to make sure consumers are protected and that these efforts promote competition as well. So I'll see what comes in. Now you ask, should it have been done at the commission level? There is nothing new about a bureau or an office issuing a public notice. The commission's action comes when we actually conduct the rulemakings in the docket. So it'll be important for the commission to be involved and for us to very carefully look at what it is that we are going to do. This should be a thoughtful, deliberate process for the protection of consumers and competitions, not a Doge-like effort to take a chainsaw to rules that protect consumers. So this is just an information gathering effort at this point. And any meaningful level should take place in a transparent and open way at the commission level.
Lynn Stanton, TR Daily. Do you have any concerns that the chairman seems to be pursuing an agenda that doesn't depend very much on commission votes, that's done through investigations that he directs staff to conduct, the power of the bully pulpit, et cetera?
For me, what is worrisome to me is the use of the FCC to weaponize it against companies, whether it's against the broadcasters that are reporting in ways that they don't like, whether it's against companies because of their diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. I think it's very worrisome that you have a concerted effort throughout the administration clearly to both control speech and private actions. That is what concerns me. In the end, any actual actions that the commission will need to vote on, we will vote on. But at the same time, I very much worry that what you are seeing is harassment and bullying meant to silence.
Thanks, everyone.